All right, happy Monday, friends. Today is October 18th. Let's take a moment to come into this space together before we set up our weeks. So if you'd like to, you can close your eyes. Taking a deep breath in, letting a deep breath go, and letting anything that feels like a distraction fade to the background. Perhaps you've already had some of your week already. Perhaps some of your week has already gotten ahead of you or behind you. Letting that go in this moment, allowing yourself to be here, to take this space for you, and to take this space for whatever you're working on right now, whether that's in business or in life or somewhere in between. And then asking for these next few moments or next few minutes as we do set up the week, prioritize tasks, asking that your intuition speak to you and share with you the most important tasks, action items, practices, to-dos or not to-dos that are for your highest and best good. Another full breath in and another full breath out. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. And here we are. So I wanted to share a shift in perspective that I had this week. And we have a full moon in Aries on Wednesday morning, Eastern time. And I was listening to a podcast talking about the energy of this full moon, and the message was to celebrate. Now, I haven't felt particularly celebratory recently. Things have felt a little intense, a little heavy, and I found myself going into a lot of worry, a lot of anxiety, which anxiety is a very common energy, especially for the season of fall, which is all about like change and winds of change and also letting go. So like if you're feeling extra anxiety right now, you can not blame the seasons, but know that like the seasons heighten that a little bit. But I just found myself going down these just really heavy worry paths. And while there is a time and a place for planning, there is a time and a place for looking to the future, for figuring things out, I realized like that wasn't supporting me. And so I loved this message from the full moon to instead celebrate. And so that's what I'm focusing on this week is how can I, and I think it will probably go beyond this week, how can I celebrate? How can I be grateful and joyous for the right here, the right now, instead of worrying about all the things that could happen or might happen, that might go wrong in the future. So I'm offering that to you in case that feels resonant. And with that, let's go ahead and set up our weeks. And knowing that there is a full moon on Wednesday, perhaps you want to make a note of that. And there can be something, I record and send out audio moon rituals to my membership community, both your Stellar Center, and then there's a Light Moon Rituals membership. But a ritual for a full moon, it can be a simple, and when I say ritual, it's usually a meditation or a visualization in some space for journaling. Maybe we bring in a candle or burn some Palo Santo or something. But you can choose what your ritual is. Perhaps it's just creating a little extra space that evening or the evening before to check in with your intentions, to check in with yourself. And as a reminder, full moons are illuminatory. They shine a light on what's going on in our life. They're also a point of culmination and release. So it may feel like there is no ending and beginning necessarily in the moon cycles, like they're constantly creating and ending. Um, but full moons can be a point of illumination, of clarity, but it can also be a point of release, because then from there the moon starts to wane towards the new moon. Um, so yeah, with that, let's take a few minutes to brain dump our tasks for the week. I already got mine started a little bit, so I'm going to finish and then put them into my Magic of I written planner. And we'll check back in maybe 8 minutes or so if anyone would like to share their insights, ahas, or a big rock, a priority for the week. I haven't identified that for me yet, so I'm hoping that that's what I'll figure out or feel out in the next little bit. So I'm going to mute myself. If you want to put on some music, do whatever you do, and we'll come back here in a few moments. Hi, Miss Kara. Nice to have you here. We just started brain dumping our tasks for the week, and then we'll regroup in a few minutes. If anyone wants to share a priority item, a theme, a big rock, I shared that my insight for this upcoming new or full moon is to celebrate. So I'm going to be focusing on that. How are we doing? Isn't it amazing? Like, you don't need a lot of time to do this. Literally, I give us like 8 minutes. But at least for me, it makes such a difference in how I move throughout my week and how I feel about what I've got going on. So I did get that my focus for this week is to feel into that energy of celebration more, and practically to get up to Maine safe and sound, because I have my retreat there next week, and we're going up this week. And that is like, it's a trip. It's a long road trip. And, with going not just for a vacation, but to host and lead a retreat, there's quite a few moving parts. So just giving that some energetic space. Would anyone else like to share an insight or a focus? Again, it's totally optional, but if you'd like to, you can unmute yourself or you can pop it in the chat and I'll read it out loud. Also, the option is always there for my folks watching the replay. If you want to make a comment below, you can do that as well.
Yeah, I'll share. Just when you were saying about the theme of celebration, I'm looking at my future work-wise. So I was thinking I have to review what my strengths are, what I have to offer and all that kind of thing. But I thought I need to review my achievements, which will give me an insight into what my strengths are. So that's a form of celebration as well. Because I think often we don't sit down and think, oh, I've done that, that was really good, and celebrate what we've achieved. So
I love that. And it's funny because I was just thinking this is not like the same, but I think sort of related in that I tend to like start a lot of books, especially in the personal development, like things that are heavier, not even heavier, but like denser, not just a novel. Like I'm reading like 20 probably right now, or like I'm halfway through a bunch, and some are like, that's on the shelf for later. But I finished another book this weekend and I was like, you know what? I should take an inventory at the end of every month, the books that I have finished, because and I know I've like I probably still have work to do on this, on like, you have to finish everything that you start. And I mean, half of this is reading for pleasure. But just saying like, I did read 3 books this month, and that's okay to have these other ones unfinished. So I like that you mentioned, Sally, of like going back and reflecting on achievements. And I think we could all do that. And it's very in the Aryan spirit to do that, because Scorpio, which is where we'll be entering towards the end of the month or end of the week, right after the full moon, is about our shadows. And it's certainly going to bring up some tough stuff, especially since we have an eclipses coming up. But Aries is the initiator of the zodiac, and is bold and brave, the warrior. And so I think it is a beautiful time to say like, well, what have I achieved either this last year or in this last cycle of my work? So I love that. And I want to offer that to anyone else who's listening, that it would be supportive for. Thank you for sharing.
I'll share.
I was going to ask if you wanted to share.
So mine actually all kind of had to do with, I have a bunch of things that I want to get done. I have my IBA homework to work on, among other things. But what I saw at the end was that I want to calendar everything, because I tend to make these lists of all my things I want to do. And I have lists everywhere of, personal and professional and all these different things. And then they're just sort of out there floating. And I think it's time for me to give myself some structure and actually calendar them and give them some respect in that way. And, I'm a pretty freewheeling person. So I think having a list in itself is fine. But for me, I can feel right now that I do need to have a little more grounding with it to get some traction. So
I love that. And I'm glad you're here today, because this is also like just showing up for this. The reason that I started these calls was because well, one, to connect, but also just the action of showing up consistently on a regular basis, or showing up for the replays, creating that extra space, making that extra space is like creates momentum in and of itself. So I love that. And I always calendar in when I have a lot going on, or when there's tasks that are particularly challenging, or that I know I resist, like my finances, although I don't resist them so much anymore. Because I've been doing it this way for so long, it's become more easy and more natural. It's not like a thing that hides out in the closet. I know every month I'm looking at them. But yeah, so I love that idea of like calendaring in and like grounding in. Again, as I shared at the beginning of this call, the fall season in general can feel, and any transitionary season, which we're kind of in right now, transitioning from summer, late summer into fall, which goes into winter. Like it's really a pivotal time, can be anxiety producing, which is very like air energy up here. So being able to ground things in, put them on paper, schedule them in, even just like being in nature is a great way to get grounded and balance out some of that natural anxiety, which some of us might be more or less prone to feeling. Amazing. Well, thank you for showing up. For those of you who are here live, thank you for making the time. For anyone watching the replay, that's all I have to share today. Again, we'll do this next Monday. If you weren't able to join live, I'll drop the link in the YouTube video where you can sign up and join us live. I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your week, and I'll see you soon.